have the one and only Matty J. Can I call you that?
I thought you'd never ask.
But you never. What have people called you?
Well, in high school, it was Matty J because there were so many Matts. There was Matty M,
yes.
Matty P, Matty L.
Yeah.
And then as an adult, it was Matt.
Yeah.
And then it's become Matty J. It's my shtick.
Did your wife call you Matty J?
Yeah, she did.
Like,
which it makes me sound like I'm a 12-year-old kid.
Yeah, or like
right?
a frat boy or
Yes.
something.
Yeah.
Matty J.
I know. People sometimes like, "How are you 36?" And I'm like, and it's Matty J.
I know.
Please.
But sometimes I feel like growing up, like I never want to grow up. Do you feel old yet?
I went to Blink 182 recently.
Yeah.
And it was one of those moments, it happens every now and then that you kind of
Yeah.
go, oh my God, I'm getting really old.
Yeah.
But before we went into the concert, we were having drinks at a bar and it was full of people in their late 30s and early 40s in skinny jeans,
Yep.
guts hanging out. And I was like, oh my God, I'm at one of those reunion tours.
I know.
The only kids there were with their parents.
Ugh.
And that was a moment where I was like, I'm
It's
an
also
old
really
man.
scary when you look at the people that were your idols and they look really old.
I know.
You're like, you're not that hot anymore.
I know. I know.
You're like, what?
I know. I don't. Yeah. I still feel like I'm 18. I don't feel
Yeah.
like I'm an adult with kids at all.
Do you worry about getting older? Like, well, firstly, are you done with kids?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's a no. That's
I don't know.
a no.
So I thought I was. I thought
Yeah.
I was done. I was very much. My youngest Lola is now just turned 3.
Yeah.
And so we're out of the trenches we're just about to get out of nappies. We're kind of out of, well and truly out of formula. We're about to lose the dummy. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to go back there.
I know. But it's sad when they start losing those baby-like features. Like mine just turned 5, my youngest. And I had my first 10 years ago, and then I waited 5 years to get out of the haze of like postpartum depression, to be honest. And then I was like, oh, I can do this again. And then you forget how hard it is.
You do.
Yeah.
You do. But someone said to me, if you're done, just get a vasectomy. And then all of a sudden I was like, well, I guess
Yeah.
that was the best question for me to like answer myself
Yeah.
to indicate whether or not I'm really done. And so I think at the moment we've had a really great week. The
Yeah.
kids have been fucking amazing. Like work has been not too crazy this week.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we're recording on a Friday and I'm like, you know what?
I could have 5 more.
Let's
Yeah.
create an army.
Yeah. But it's just, I don't know. Being a parent, I did not like I've stalked you for like the last couple days.
I've seen you outside my
like,
window. I'm
really
like,
stalked
"Tammin,
you.
Get away from there.
And I'm like, oh, he looks fun. But like you're pretty like you seem like happy and content and don't have a lot of mental health issues and love your family and love your life. That like sometimes I like looked at your stuff and I'm like, what is the secret? Like I'm not saying that I don't love my life. I'm very grateful, but I found motherhood difficult, more difficult. And maybe it's more difficult for women because we're expected to work like we don't mother and mother like we don't work. And like for guys, it's kind of okay to like go out with the guy. I don't know. But I found it really difficult. I found a lot of guilt in it, like a lot of motherhood, like mom guilt. I felt a lot of shame when like working and having kids. And I don't know. It was a very difficult transition for me. And I don't know if that's the same for men.
Yeah, I think it is. You have to also say that, social media only shows a certain aspect of someone's life. And obviously when my wife and I are having a really big argument, I'm not going to be like, just 1 second, record it and be like, I'm just like you guys.
Yeah.
We're having a fight right now. Like we only showcase the really like happy moments.
Right.
And it's not always happy. I think, I still, okay, yesterday, for people who don't know, yesterday was a bit of a shit show.
Please tell me. Well, I know because you missed this show.
I'm surprised that I'm doing this record because I stood you up
You did.
yesterday.
There was a second where I was like, fuck it. He's not coming back in.
I didn't think this was going to happen. And so it was a Thursday. We were recording in the afternoon. And on Thursdays, that's my daddy-daughter day.
Oh.
Which, but I was totally happy to, in the afternoon, come and record together. But it was tough because with my kids, they're like, oh, we normally go to the park. this is a daddy-daughter day. Why is there a babysitter here? And why are you leaving? And then stupidly, I put in the wrong address.
Yeah.
And I went an hour the wrong direction, which meant we didn't record. And then I felt really bad, obviously, because I didn't want you to hate me.
Well, I thought you were nice because of your social media stuff. So I was like, he's not a dick.
No.
But he might be a dick.
But then I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the fact that it was a double whammy of disappointing you. But I was driving back and I was like, fuck, I'm such a, like, I've just wasted your time. I've wasted my kids. Like, I could have been with my kids.
Yeah.
Instead, I had to palm them off to a nanny. And as I was out the door, they were crying because they were like, why are you leaving us? And, it was like the one day of the week that we normally, it's just me and the kids because Laura, my wife's at work.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I got home and then I couldn't shake the bad mood and I couldn't give my kids the best version of myself. And, and also that night was just a bit of a tough night. Like they didn't go to bed really easily. And, in that moment, you feel like, oh, it's just you have a shit day.
Right.
And that day I didn't post anything on social media.
You didn't tell everyone you had a great day.
Yeah. But I guess, in saying that though, men are much more fortunate because the bar for us is so incredibly low. Mm. And, I change a nappy and other people are like, wow, you're such a good dad. So we're really fortunate that dads are constantly getting praise for doing the bare minimum. So I'm very aware of how fortunate I am to be in that position.
Or your mom or your wife's mom helping, right? In your social media posts in the background.
Yes.
I saw that too.
Yes, which was a joke.
Oh my God. It was such a joke. And I'm so vocal about sometimes a banana is a banana. Like sometimes a fucking joke is just a joke. Everything doesn't have to always be a thing. And I get I get the short end of the stick too with some of the things I post. Like everything is a thing. Like, oh my goodness, you say you're a feminist, but how could you say you're a feminist when you posted the fact that your daughter loves like AFL, NFL, and that we were shocked that you were watching football on the weekend? That's sexist. So like, how do you feel when people always get offended by everything that you do? Well, not everything, but certain things.
I guess I'm lucky in that most of my comedy is pretty it's pretty squeaky clean. Yeah. And I'm always trying to make fun of myself. Like I'm trying to be as self-deprecating as possible. But I guess sometimes in that skit, I was making fun of the fact that when my wife goes, I then get my mum here and she does everything. And in that video, she was doing the cleaning, the cooking. She was mowing the lawn as I was like, sitting on the couch doing nothing, which is not the case.
Right.
And I was making fun of the guys that do that.
Yes.
And I wasn't saying that this is how we should behave. I was kind of saying like the people who do this are the ones that are the idiots. Mm-hmm. But then people thought I was like enabling that behavior. And it's hard because you want to be like to everyone out there who's being like, you're an idiot. You're the reason.
Dickhead.
Like you're not a feminist. And I'm like, no, I am.
You're like I love Taylor Swift.
I'm on your side. And I guess it does suck when, like I would call myself a feminist.
Yeah.
I want nothing but equal opportunity.
Rights.
Yeah. And then when that side is then saying you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You're like, no, I'm
like,
with you.
I am a good person.
Yeah. Like
I get
don't lump me in with the misogynistic pricks.
Yeah.
But then you just gotta. You wouldn't sleep if you tried to correct everyone who had the wrong opinion of you.
Let's talk about relationships and how to make relationships work. I know that you met your wife on The Bachelor. I have to be honest, though, because I don't like to bullshit. I've never actually seen The Bachelor, but I know that people love it so much. And do you
They used to love it.
Okay, they used to love it so much.
Maybe that poor show is not what it used to be.
But when you were on it, they loved it.
Oh, yeah.
So much that you were a bachelorette, like one of the guys that the woman was going to pick to your own bachelor, like that's you're the most amazing guy out of all of them to have your own bachelor.
The weird thing is, I was like, I kind of caused the demise of The Bachelor. Like I was on it, and then after every season after me was like less downhill. And less audience. So I'm like, sorry to anyone who loved the show, I ruined it.
So what was it about you that they picked? Like, why you? I know why you. I think you're amazing, but like, what do you think it was? Why did they choose you out of all those men to have your own season?
I think more than anything, like they always say they want the show to work. Mm-hmm. Like obviously the more couples, the more kids, the more marriages, the better it is for the show because it's they want to have credibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and hand on heart, like I was 29, I think, when the show was on, and I'd come back from London. I was living in London for 4 years, so I kind of like I'd scratched that itch of like traveling and you know having lack of responsibility from like a family and like long-term partner. So I'd done that. I'd come home. My sister was about to have her first kid. Other friends of mine were like really settling into their long-term relationships. And I genuinely wanted to find someone. Like, and I always wanted to have a family. And, and I like around that age, being like late 20s, the biggest fear for me was like, holy shit, what if I never find anyone? And what if I get to my late 30s and I don't have kids and then I miss the boat completely and I never have a family? So I think going into it, I was always like, I really want to find someone and I really want to have kids.
Do you think you're codependent?
No,
I am.
I'm pretty happy on my own. I'm a bit of a chameleon.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to be like a work from home by myself. I love it.
Yeah.
At the same time, every now and then, it's nice to dip in to be with other people. But my wife and I are very like, in the morning we go our separate ways. We come home at nighttime, and then in the weekends we're together. But I don't know. I always wanted to. I always wanted to be a dad.
Yeah.
That was just like, for whatever reason, I don't know why. It was always number one on my list of like what I want in this world.
Did you feel like it was strange? And this is the last Bachelor question I'll ask you, I promise. Kissing lots of girls, and it was okay. Because I remember when I kissed lots of boys back in the day, it was not okay. Like, I had one on the roof. Like, my mom was, like, fielding the other one downstairs. Like, it was not okay to do that. So it's, like, a weird, like, mental shift to be like, okay, I can make out and do all these things with these women, and they're cool with it.
Yeah, it's a weird set of rules that, you know, what works in the world of The Bachelor doesn't work in everyday life. Like, you're told that you should not date 24 people at the one time. There are certain people that agree with that, but I was brought up in a way that like definitely heroed not cheating on your partner.
Right.
And yeah, it is a real like internal dilemma. And like you go to bed feeling like a piece of shit when you've got like, you know, you got at one point you've got like 10 girlfriends that you're like, all at one time, you're kind of like...
And the perfume, like I would think you've got one perfume smell here and then like a lip gloss from another one. Like it's weird, I would think.
Yeah.
But kind of awesome.
It's also awkward when you get, you know, details wrong of like one partner and you're like, you must be really missing your family, your brother. And they're like, I don't have a brother. And you're like, your sister.
I don't even have a family.
Yeah. I'm like, well, this is awkward. Just kiss me. Come here.
Yeah. And do they push you to do other things? Like, do they try to get people drunk? Like, do they try to give them alcohol?
Because drunk people make bad TV most of the time. Most of the time.
Except if you're on, what's the one, the Housewives.
Oh, yeah. Well, Drunk History is quite good.
Oh, yeah. Majority of the time, I mean, every now and then if someone's getting really unhinged, you kind of want to like push them in that direction. You can give them a few more drinks and let them loose. Yeah. But the majority of the time, like when people are really hammered, it's not good viewing. Yeah. So they were kind of like, there's like that happy, a little bit tipsy, you're feeling good, you know, you're chatty, but then like you want to stay in that little zone, for like the whole night. You don't want to get too drunk, but then you don't want to get then like not drink enough, so then start getting really tired.
Yeah, and also like sloppy drunk kisses, like.
That was the hardest thing. The hardest thing is trying to like maintain that like tipsiness every night.
Every night
for 3 months.
Oh gosh. See, I haven't drunk for a year just because I don't have a problem with it, but I was just like, I don't like that after feeling, you know, the feeling of like.
So what's your vice then?
Yelling at my husband. I don't know. You're right. Maybe I should have a vice. I've never taken drugs. Well, I smoked weed once, and I drove myself to the hospital, and then ate a pizza and fell asleep. And I was like, "This is the worst drug that I've like ever tried."
Well, if that's how you're behaving with weed, you
should
not be drinking at all.
I like the feeling of alcohol. I just don't like it. It steals. it steals the hours from tomorrow.
Yes.
And then I don't, in those 2 to 3 hours where I feel great, it steals 12 hours from another day.
Yeah, when I'm not hungover, I can play tea parties and fairies for far longer.
Yeah.
And I'm far more engaged than when I've come from the pub and had 10 beers.
Yeah,
And
but I like the feeling. So then my vice, I think it's work and success. And if I'm not working or feel successful or making money, I feel lesser than. And that's something I'm dealing with in therapy, because you can't like always be successful and making money. But, you know, I was very successful at 17, 16. So it's hard for like your brain, which thinks that that's life.
I think the most important advice for people, young people listening, don't peak too soon in high school. I was fortunate that I was a bit of a dead shit in high school. So for me, like, it's been really easy to improve on like the days gone by.
Right.
But yeah, for you, like that's...
I was like, well, so I was also a very, which I've told the story before, but like it was like 100 and something kilos, braces, fuzzy.
Who was?
I was.
100 kilos?
Oh, yeah. Like it was like 96 or something.
You're like 5'5".
Oh yeah. I can show you pictures because people are like, I don't believe you. And I'm like, here we go. Fuzzy hair. No one wanted to like, you know, when you're in that, you're, again, that word feverishly trying to like make boys like you. No one gave, like, I remember being at the Knox dance and this guy came up to me. I was like, oh my God, he's going to ask me out. Like, this is it. And he was like, you should go to Jenny Craig. And I remember that was actually the turning point. I'd love to meet him again. Be like, fuck you, man. And I remember at that moment, I was like, I'm going to change my life. I remember it so vividly. And I started eating. It started out well. I was eating and exercising, lost weight, got on Home and Away, then just stopped eating because I was like, oh my God, how am I going to maintain this? But yeah, like I think so much of that was wrapped into like my self-worth was because I lost weight, looked a certain way, and became successful. And I was like 16. And then all the boys were like, you know, my mom, again, was fielding one off the roof. And I'm like, you know, they're like, oh, I want to go out with you. And I was like, wait, what? So when you ask what my vice is, it used to be probably being wanted by the opposite sex, which is now obviously my husband. As you get older, that kind of goes away because the wrinkles and the things, and you're not as wanted in that way. So now it's just probably work. But I don't know, the vice is healthy in some ways, but maybe not. What's your vice?
Actually, probably going in an absolute deep vortex on social media. That little window when the kids are in bed,
Same.
You've had dinner, it's 8 p.m., you kind of got 2 hours where you've got no responsibility, no emails, no phone calls coming through, and you can just totally switch off and veg out on Instagram and TikTok.
But it's also your job.
Yes. I'm always, yeah. I know, that's my excuse when my wife is like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm working right now, if you don't mind.
Don't you feel shit, though, after you've wasted 2 hours on social media? Do you compare yourself? Are you like that guy?
No, but I'm watching really stupid content.
Like
I'm
what?
watching like people build a brick wall.
Yeah.
That's like...
Yeah.
That's my vice. So like,
yeah.
I mean, a part of me is like, I wish I could build a brick wall like that. But I mean, sometimes like I've got a love-hate relationship with social media because that's my job. I hate the term, but you know, I'm a influencer / like content creator, depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah.
But I sometimes think, wouldn't it be great if I didn't have to worry about social media posting anything?
Mm-hmm.
But that's like, I don't know, it's also, that's life now. And also I look at my old job and I'm like,
I don't want to do that.
yeah, I'm much more fortunate to do really stupid videos now, a lot of the time with my family, rather than, you know, be working in an office. Going
back to your relationship though with your wife, you seem super happy, which is amazing. So what do you believe that, like, what is intimacy to you? And do you think sex in a marriage is, like, the frequency of sex is important for, like, the longevity of a relationship?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's easy at certain points of being a parent to just like, you're just stuck in the rut of, you know, you're just doing the best that you can. You're like struggling through to make it to the end of the day. You know, you're trying to look after these, for me, it was 2 little humans, as well as that you're trying to work as well. trying to like put in a layer of like socializing. So you're trying to see your friends because you haven't seen them for ages as well. And then down the list is then your partner and being intimate. And when it's 10 o'clock at night, you know, you're going to be up 3 times throughout the evening. The last thing that you guys want to do is try and have sex. But then, you know, after a while, it becomes a point where like Laura, my wife, and I, there's been lots of times when we're like, oh my gosh, it's been like 4 months. We've not had a date night.
Yeah.
Like,
I thought you were going to say sex. I was like, maybe we should.
Well, yeah, well, like there's been like, there's lots of times where we're kind of like, oh, we've both been so busy. And my wife is a machine. She has more jobs than anyone I've ever met in my entire life. And she's so successful. And there are times when work and being a parent, being a mum or dad has to take priority. And you don't want to get to a position where, for me, I don't want to be like, oh, it's been 12 months and I haven't been intimate with my wife.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't want to like be intimate, but you know it's really important to like get into the routine of being intimate.
Yeah. We try to do it once a week. Like we try to schedule it now, which sounds ridiculous, but like, I think like just Friday. So don't call me on a Friday or a Tuesday, guys. Okay, I try on a Tuesday. I never get sex on a Tuesday, so I normally get on a Friday.
See, Mondays, Wednesdays, they are the worst days.
Monday, Wednesdays.
Like, I know that there's
it's not gonna happen.
If I tap my wife on the shoulder and give her the look, she would be like what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? It'd be like asking her to go to run a marathon at 1 a.m. She's like, that's just not going to happen.
Well, see, I don't run marathons in my sex life. We just like
get
it done.
It's a sprint. It's like it's a 10-meter sprint.
It's just
we're talking
like
minutes here, people.
Minutes, you know. But for me, if I don't have sex once a week, I almost feel like it's a roommate situation. I've always been highly sex, so some people are, some people aren't. Women sort of get the bad, just like short end of the stick when they say, well, it's men who want sex all the time. A lot of women want sex all the time too. But I know that when it gets to like, I'm such a bitch after like day 8. I just don't, you shouldn't, like, not to other people, but to my poor husband, I'm just like, don't even like his face. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, don't even sit next to me. Like, I don't like you at all. I don't like who you are. I don't like what you stand for. Like, it's awful. But once I've had sex, we're like, he's the best.
Oh yeah, you love each other.
Yeah.
Again. You're like, that's right.
I was like, oh,
I love you.
We do like it. So for me, it's like if I don't schedule it, then it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, we're lucky now that Lola's 3. I'm like, I love my kids so much. How old are they again?
Yeah, I don't
Her
even.
name's Charlotte. I
forget
think.
the birthday. I'm like the 19th or is it the 17th?
But we're lucky now that we do get a bit more time.
Yeah.
And we can on occasions put on a Disney film, gives us a bit of breathing time. We can shut our bedroom door, get the job done quickly.
It's like an ad break.
Yeah.
You know, maybe half an ad break.
That's it.
But no one talks about like. I wish people had more. I think podcasts now is such a big thing, and people listen to it, especially in Australia. They say Australia is like one of the number one places that people listen to podcasts, and people are very open about their lives, including their sex lives. But no one told me this. Like when I got into a relationship, I thought if you weren't having sex every day or every 3 days, that your relationship was fucked. Like that literally there's something, because when you first meet your partner, it's like you're very feverish, right? Like, I mean, you'd assume. And then when you have kids, it's just like your priorities are so different. And then trying to keep that spark alive is what I think the whole point of like marriage is to try to fall in love again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like you've got your marriage, you've got your kids, you've got work, and you've got socializing. And it is absolutely impossible to have all elements firing at the one time.
Yeah.
Like you can focus on 1 or 2 and that's it.
Yeah.
And like, you know, it's peaks and troughs. Sometimes it's socializing that I like want to try and prioritize, and sometimes it's work, and then sometimes it's the marriage.
Yeah.
And it's okay for it to like not always be the marriage, and not always be parenting, and not always be socializing.
Yeah. So finding out a little bit more about you, I don't know if you've ever talked about this, but what's your greatest fear?
I think now it would be getting to an older age where my kids are grown up and my kids are not wanting to have anything to do with me. I think like...
But you're so great. Why would they not want to do with anything to do with you?
I don't know. I think
Because
like
Thursdays you have to work.
sometimes, kids like I was an angsty teenager, and I just went through a phase. My mum was an amazing mum, but there were times when I just was a little brat. I was 15, and
Yeah.
I remember like my mum trying to hold my hand across the road, and I was like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want affection from you, for no other reason than I was just going through a little bit of a phase. And so I think I could be a great parent, but maybe my daughter's my toddler, Lola, the 3-year-old, she fucking hates me.
Yeah, so does my 10-year-old.
And
It comes back again.
That's what people say.
Like they love you at 5, 6, 7, and then they fucking hate you at 10.
Lola's always hated me.
Yeah, yeah, I get it.
And so I'm lucky that Marley, who's my eldest, she's 5, almost 5. She's always been obsessed with me, and I always think in the back of my mind, I'm like, I hope it is just a phase. I hope that I don't get to like, my kids being in their 20s and I don't have that same relationship as what I've got now.
Yeah. So then, is your greatest fear to be unloved, or like to love people, not just your kids, but to love and not have that love back?
Just my kids.
Just to get your wife?
Think.
No.
Oh, my wife as well.
Yeah, maybe.
My wife as well.
If she's listening.
I love you so much, Laura.
Yeah.
You are just the most important person in my life. I think, just my family. I mean, like, to my friends, I love them too. But if they at some point decide that the friendship's over, I'm like, we had a good run. I'll see you later.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fear. I think my biggest fear is to die.
For sure. But I think, like, obviously it would be terrible if I was to leave this earth anytime soon. I would not like that at all. Yeah. But at the same time, you can't live with that. Like, I feel like that could be such a controlling fear because there's so many things that would be potentially risky.
Yeah.
You don't want to live like.
I'm not afraid of dying now. I'm just afraid of dying ultimately. Do you worry that, like, is there something else like after this life for you?
I'm a hard out atheist.
Really?
Yeah.
Nothing at all. Even in your child, like, even when you saw your babies start to be formed from nothing to like a human.
I think it's all a bit woo-woo. My mom is she was really big on reincarnation.
Yeah.
But I don't like religion. I'm such an atheist.
Religion and I think can be separate from God.
But
I'm believing there's something more.
No, I kind of think when the time comes, that's it.
Yeah.
See you later.
So
like,
nothing.
Yeah.
And that doesn't freak you out.
Nah, I'm cool with that. I mean, obviously, when you're in a situation where like all hope is lost, you always kind of talk to a higher being. I don't know who that is. There's been times when I'm like, please put my kids to sleep.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think. I know it sounds really like. I feel like if you're an atheist, it's very pessimistic. But yeah, I don't.
Maybe that's why you're happy. Because you're living your life. Meaning, if you think that there's nothing else, then you're living this life to the happiest and the most grateful. And I mean, I heard you on another podcast saying like, I'm like a really happy guy for the most part. And maybe that's because you've made the choice that this is it.
I would say I'm happy. The things that I'm really fortunate about are my work, my wife, and my kids, and the fact that I've like got them in my corner. Like that's what makes me happy.
Well, before we go, because I know you obviously have other things to do, I want you to tell me. There's gonna be two things. One, I want you to tell me your biggest shit show moment that you've ever experienced in your life, or one of them. And then after that, you're going to help me with some Australian slang.
The biggest shit show moment was, there's been a few. During COVID, it was a good time for me because it meant that I was at home. I was really present with my kids because I had no work at all for a really long time. So I was just, for me, I'd wake up and the biggest priority was just spending time with my kids. And then finally, when COVID started to like die off, the phone rang and it was a show called Dancing with the Stars. And I'm a really bad dancer.
I thought you would have been good.
I thought I'd be good as well.
I was like, he can dance.
Terrible absolutely no rhythm at all. But the timing wise was that training started for the show 2 weeks after Lola was born, which is a terrible, terrible time to start dancing 6 days a week, 9 hours a day. But it was one of those situations that, you know, I hadn't worked for a long time because there was just no work and we were locked in. So I had to take it. And I took it with the blessing of my wife. Like we spoke about, you know, can we do this? It's an awful time. Can we make it work? And we said we would. And my first daughter, Marley, was just the dream child. She was so easy to the point where like we had such a false sense of ability as parents. Like we would look at other people struggling with their kids and be like, you're too stressed. You need to relax more as a parent and it'll be easy. And we just had like a dream child. She ate well. She slept well. She slept through the night. She'd wake up once, feed her. She'd go down again for another 4 hours. She was happy to be held by everyone. And then in contrast to that, our second was just the opposite.
I had the flip, yeah.
She wouldn't feed. She was a really bad feeder. Breastfeeding took forever. She was a really awful sleeper. She would only sleep with my wife holding her. And she would sleep maybe at most an hour at a time. And she hated me as well. So if I
still does, you said.
She's from from the moment she was born,
Nothing's
she's
changed.
like, something's off about that guy.
Yeah.
And if I held her, I have this video. It was like 1 a.m, and I was trying to comfort her. She'd been fed, she'd been burped, and just me holding her was causing her to have blood curdling screams. And at the same time, I was like trying to learn how to do the fucking samba terribly, and just that combination. That was just we were also in we'd well and truly outgrown our apartment as well. So we had a tiny little apartment in Bondi. The way that we had the bedroom set up, we had like a little nook by the front door. That's where the cot was. My eldest had her own room. We obviously had our own bedroom, but the nook was so close to the other bedroom door that we would at nighttime. And I used to get anxiety the moment the sun would set because I was like, here we go, like another night of just hell.
It's awful. That lack of sleep deprivation. No, you can't really explain it to someone who. See, my first kid was like that. That's why I waited 5 years. Second kid, dream. And I'm like, I'll do a third. First, woke up every hour. She'd vomit too, like projectile vomit.
Yeah.
So we had to
Change
get
the
there in
sheets.
time because she even when we dropped her off to school, she'd projectile vomit because she was so anxious about being alone.
Yeah.
They're like, no one understands sleep deprivation like that until you have a child that doesn't sleep and wakes up every hour for like a year sometimes.
I totally get that. People without kids can be tired. I understand that. But if ever I hear
different.
anyone be like, I'm so exhausted and you don't have kids, and I'm like, you don't know.
It's like
what
a
it's like.
different. Like I left my car running for 2 hours. That's the kind of tired. Like just left it outside with it on because I was so tired. I put my phone in the fridge, couldn't find it for a day. I invited 20 people to the wrong address. It's that kind of tired. It's not like I'm so tired I need a good
Or
night's
is that
sleep.
the ADD?
Yeah. Or if that's just me, maybe. But I've never done it before or after. So that was your shit show moment.
That was it. And then the peak of it was my wife was having a really, really tough time because obviously I was gone 6 days of the week. I was learning to dance. And I thought to myself, you know what's really going to cheer my wife up? She's down in the dumps. She's having a bad day. I'm going to come home and I'm going to show her my routine, which at the time was the waltz. And it was a really beautiful love story that I was telling with my dance partner, who Ruby was an amazing dancer, beautiful young dancer. She was like 23. And I thought, I'm going to get home, and my wife had not showered. She was still in her pajamas, and it was like almost evening. And I put in front of her a video of me doing this beautiful sexual waltz with this young dancer. And then I quickly realized that without giving her any exposure to any of the dancers at all, I saw like the color just, like what was remaining of my wife just fade away. And then I tried to grab the phone, and then she kept watching. And that was rock
not
bottom.
the night.
That was rock bottom.
And you're like, sex?
Yeah.
Do you want to have sex tonight?
I know
It's
what else would cheer you up.
Yeah, I
Take
just do a 2-minute session.
Take your pants off.
Yeah. She's like, fuck you. That sounds like a shit show.
Yeah.
But look at you now.
Sadly, I didn't win Dancing with the Stars.
Were you better though than you thought you were gonna be?
It wasn't the worst. It wasn't a total disaster.
Like you were somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah. I
That's
was
good.
just slightly above average.
Eh,
It was worth it.
what you want to be.
Yeah.
And then the last thing we're gonna do is, because I live in both countries, sometimes I come here and the slang totally changes for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to give me 3 of your new favorite Aussie words that someone like me maybe wouldn't. Like I heard old mate recently. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's like a one that's been going on for a bit, but I was like, what the fuck is old mate? What are your 3? They can also be swear words, but something that like I'd be like, huh?
I don't know. This is. I used to say this a lot as a kid,
Yeah.
and I think it's maybe like it's coming through as a cycle. It's coming back. If something was good, it was cheddar.
Really?
That's cheddar.
Cheddar.
Yeah.
There's one on Married at First Sight. Days.
D's. I know.
Do you use that, Dylan?
I definitely don't use D's.
Like, do you say to your wife, "You're days"?
No, I'm 40. I'm not saying- yeah.
You don't say
I
that.
can't get away with that
Okay.
anymore.
Do you
Yeah.
say D's?
I've never used D's. I've never used D's.
But you've heard it.
I've never heard it. I
Huh.
feel like his D's is my cheddar. We're both trying to make this thing work, and no one else has heard about it.
Cheddar's good. Dylan, have you heard about cheddar?
I haven't heard about cheddar, no.
Okay, one more.
This is a Queensland thing,
Okay.
and I've stopped doing it. I don't do it anymore. Actually, I had to kind of rub it out of my vocabulary when I was in London,
Yeah.
and I would end every sentence with "but."
What do you end it with? But.
So I would just say, like, for example, today is a very hot day, but. And they'd be like,
It doesn't even make sense with the English
Well,
language.
it's just
it's
a
a
way of-
conjoining word.
it's just a way of really emphasizing.
No.
So I'd say, like, this room this is a beautiful room, but.
No.
And people would say, well, but
But
what? But what? I'd say, but. Like, but's the full stop.
Oh my
It's a
God.
Queensland thing.
It's like saying, I really like this show end. You're like, what?
I agree. I look back and I'm like, that made no sense. I've removed it,
But-
I miss those days of like I hate that I removed that bit of Queensland from myself.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on the shit show.
It's been a great chat, but
But I was gonna do it.
sorry. Do it again.
We'll do it together. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Matty J.
But.